Power. Africa's new middle class wants power. Governments fear rebellion. African leaders need to act quickly. They promise their people power, electric power, nuclear power.
We must not fear nuclear energy.
All over Africa, uranium mines fuel the continent's dangerous dream of cheap atomic energy. A terrorist could send a missile into a nuclear reactor and it would explode. Everything would blow up. So the danger is that we cannot ensure the safety of a nuclear reactor in this country right now. Africa, Uganda. We're close to Kampala, a modern city with 1.4 million inhabitants. It's 7 o'clock at night, and the electricity has been cut. This happens several times a day, and when it happens, life grinds to a halt. It may seem romantic, but for those living here, the failing electricity supply is a huge problem. No light, no telephone, no computer, no internet, no refrigerator, no cooker. Several times a day, people are thrown back into a dark pre-industrial age. The problem is the country's poor infrastructure and its undersized power plants. Uganda's electricity plants produce only a quarter of the power actually needed for its population. The government needs to invest a massive $3.5 billion in its power plants over the next 10 years. Until then, it's wood fires instead of electric kettles. Only 1 in 10 Ugandans has access to electricity at all. And those who have power have to pay a high price. Only recently, electricity prices went up by nearly 40%. No wonder people rely on traditional tools that don't need electricity to work. The expensive and unreliable electricity supply has a disastrous impact on the economy. Despite a young and increasingly well-educated workforce, economic growth is sluggish. Analysts say that Uganda's economy could grow by at least 6.5% a year. However, the actual growth rate is only 4.5%, mainly due to the problems with the power supply. Kampala is Uganda's buzzing capital. This is where the country's new middle class lives. Many of them have been educated in Europe and America. They demand a Western standard of living, and this includes high-speed internet, a reliable mobile phone network, and enough electricity to run their businesses and power their computers. In April 2011, a series of blackouts sparks violent demonstrations. Newspapers and citizens alike are in uproar. They demand power, electric power. The Ugandan authorities are worried. In Tunisia, Egypt and Libya, a wave of protests has just toppled several governments. To quell the protests, the Ugandan government calls in the armed forces. The violence escalates. The streets are burning, and shots are fired. In the end, 360 people are arrested, 143 are injured, and 2 are killed. We're on our way to Paris, France. The African governments know that they have to react quickly. If they don't give their people cheap, reliable energy, they might soon be swept away by a wave of protests. Here in Paris, African leaders will meet with representatives from energy companies to discuss a solution to Africa's power problem. The African Energy Forum. 657 delegates from 51 countries. Government ministers, high-ranking officials, and bosses of energy companies. Together they set the course for Africa's new energy policy. A continent that's developing fast and needs lots of cheap electricity.
There is emergency of the middle class, whose demands are not different from those in America, in Europe, or in Asia, because they require the same standard of living. They have acquired almost the same kind of level of education, and they are looking at meeting their aspirations.
A promotional video for a property development in the Rwandan capital Kigali illustrates these ambitions. Skyscrapers instead of slums. The African middle class is looking forward to a bright future.
The Muhima CBD is set to be the new commercial hub of Kigali, offering a progressive environment for local and international businesses and financial institutions. The new CBD core in Muhima will be the premier financial zone of Kigali, with premium office towers. Mixed-use activities will ensure vibrant streetscapes at all times. A grand central plaza will be the landmark venue for celebratory events. Nyarugenge, a revitalized district, your home, a place where opportunities are abundant. In the heart of Rwanda, Nyarugenge, the district of the future, awaits you.
Such high-flying dreams can only be realized with a constant supply of affordable electricity. Nuclear energy is the mantra of the African Energy Forum.
Africa cannot have any future without enough power. And that's really what we are supposed to look at today.
So at a time when nations like Japan and Germany are steering away from nuclear energy generation because of its inherent dangers, the governments of Africa are actively embracing this technology.
Are you interested in nuclear? Who's interested in nuclear? You are. He's the one who prosecuted the project. Okay. We'll sit and watch you. One of the things I like about Eddie is he's a pathbreaker, isn't he? Yeah. you go. The Germans are shutting down.
Yeah.
The Japanese are throwing it into the sea.
What is here is all nuclear.
The Germans are playing politics. First of all, they import power from nuclear projects.
Yes, I
You know, and so are the Italians.
but I think the impulse is right. I mean, whether you eliminate them is one thing, but I don't know, the Germans have done well with renewables already, so maybe they want to do more renewables.
Yeah. But the French is nuclear.
No, that's true.
It's a balloon.
Today, the 48 countries of sub-Saharan Africa use about as much electricity as Spain. But that demand is going to increase tenfold over the next 15 years. Planners say that alternative energy sources like wind or solar power simply can't produce enough electricity to satisfy Africa's needs. This is why 10 African countries are currently looking into the construction of nuclear power plants. We're on our way to Tanzania in East Africa. Tanzania's population is growing rapidly. To satisfy the increasing demand for energy, the country needs more power plants. We drive to Arusha in the north of Tanzania. On our way, we realize just how poor the country is. 30% of its people live below the poverty line. Outside the big cities, there's no water supply and no electricity infrastructure. Nevertheless, the Tanzanian industrial sector is one of the fastest growing in Africa. And it could do even better if it weren't for the constant power cuts. A problem the Tanzanian Atomic Energy Commission wants to solve by building nuclear power plants.
Some projects are actually in the initial state, like the power production, to train the scientists, to train the engineers, to train other staffs as well as other equipment. So we get some support from as I said, from collaboration with other organizations. Tanzania Atomic Energy Commission currently is equipped with scientists on the safety. We have no problem. There are enough people trained from master's level to PhD. There are a lot of people who have been trained on the safety of radiation protection and security. They have been trained. But in engineering, to run the power plant, scientists, I think this we need to apply some projects which is currently running to get some support.
But Tanzania not only wants to build nuclear power plants, it also wants to mine for uranium. The country, which is famous for its national parks and its abundant wildlife, is also rich in natural resources. Gas, gold, and now uranium. Together with international partners in the mining industry, Tanzania wants to exploit its uranium resources to provide fuel for nuclear reactors at home and abroad. A welcome boost for the country's economy, but a disaster for its national parks. Because right here, in the middle of Selu Game Reserve, mining companies want to excavate the nuclear material. But it's not only the wild animals that will suffer from the government's mining plans. Here in the Bahi swamps, prospectors have located another uranium deposit. The Bahi swamps are Tanzania's breadbasket. For centuries, people have cultivated the landscape. The Bahi swamps look like the Garden of Eden, in a region that's otherwise threatened by hunger and drought. "200,000 people live here and provide the whole country with grain, rice, fish, and meat. We always have very good harvests here. From the rice I sell, I can feed my family and raise my children. I have 7 children. I sent them all to good schools, and now they have jobs. From my yield, I was even able to build 3 houses for my family. So, are you happy here? We're doing well here. Would you ever go away? No, I would never leave. It seems reckless for a country that relies on food imports to destroy its most productive agricultural region. Uranium mining would destroy the livelihood of these fishermen too. During the rainy season, the Bahi swamps turn into a huge lake teeming with fish. These fishermen catch tons of them, gut them, smoke them, and sell them around the country. A valuable source of protein and a valuable source of income. The catch is very good. I can't complain. Just with the fishes here from the swamps, I earn enough to feed my family and send my children to school. But apart from the environmental impact, does it make sense economically to destroy this agricultural area for uranium mining? We visit the University of Dodoma to find out. Here, scientists attempt to assess the economic impact of uranium mining. They calculate the economic power of the Bahi region at the moment. Then they compare this to how much Tanzania stands to gain from uranium mining, which is predicted to last for only 13 years.
The basis of very, very conservative estimates, mining of uranium in Bahi will cause a net loss of $116 million.
A huge economic loss and irreparable damage to the environment. Suddenly, nuclear power doesn't seem so cheap anymore. Kinshasa, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, another African country with nuclear ambitions. In contrast to Tanzania, which is politically relatively stable, the Congo is a failing state. For the past 15 years, war has ravaged the country. More than 20 armed groups and 9 official armies have killed nearly 5.5 million people. Even today, the Congo is dangerous, corrupt, and unstable. But it's also a country with great potential. Here at the University of Kinshasa, 26,000 students study for a better future. The university was founded in 1954 by the Belgians. 6 decades later, it has 10 departments, among them science and engineering. The Congolese government plans to build 2 nuclear power stations. Such ambitious projects need well-trained engineers and scientists. This class studies nuclear physics. Here, everybody is convinced that atomic energy is the future for the Congo. Right now, we're destroying the rainforest because most people still use firewood and charcoal. Therefore, the forest is being cut down. We have to change our traditional ways of life. For this, we need new energy sources that replace wood. The first nuclear reactor in Africa was built here in 1958. A second reactor is still operational today. The reactor is located on the university campus, but it's not part of the university. The reactor was built here 50 years ago, in the Belgian colonial period. The main goal was always research and training. Ever since the reactor has existed, there have been concerns about its safety. In 2007, the head of the research institute was arrested because he had illegally sold 100 nuclear fuel rods. His successor's job is to advise Congo's government on nuclear energy matters. We meet him in his private home. Ironically, there's a power outage, and we need to use our car's headlamps to light the interview.
En fait, c'est parce que l'Afrique ne veut pas rester.
Africa doesn't want to fall behind. Africa also wants to advance in nuclear technology, because nuclear technology and nuclear physics are advancing, despite all the accidents, despite Fukushima and all that. In general, nuclear technology is becoming increasingly important in many areas. We cannot rely on hydropower, so we need to diversify. Therefore, I advise our government to develop other energy sources. I'm convinced that we should favor nuclear energy because we have great potential here. After all, we have the resources. We have uranium in our country. And thanks to the good experience and the long tradition with our research reactor, we've taken the first step towards nuclear energy. Are there also international companies that lobby for nuclear power here? We've been approached by Areva, and that's a big company, right? Areva is very interested in working with us. I expect this interest to continue, and we can work together. For example, to mine uranium.
Nous allons collaborer ensemble pour l'exploitation de l'uranium, par exemple.
Areva is France's government-controlled nuclear energy company. They exploit uranium deposits in various African countries. And now, they're obviously trying to do business in the Congo too. Katanga province in eastern Congo. Mineral-rich, war-torn. For decades, the government and rebels have fought over the province's natural resources. Now that the government is back in control, they try to sell Congo's most valuable asset to the French. We're driving to Shinkolobe mine. Jean-Claude Bacard, a local anti-nuclear activist, is taking us there. He wants to show us what decades of illegal uranium mining have done to his country. Why do we know that the transported minerals contain uranium? I tell you, all minerals here in Katanga contain a certain percentage of uranium. Because of the geology of Katanga, all minerals have a high content of radioactive material. We can't get into the mine. The uranium mine of Shinkolobe is a military exclusion zone. But there are other mines in the area that contain radioactive substances too. Workers simply dig up the raw material with their bare hands and carry it on their backs. No radiation protection, no Geiger counters. They risk their lives for a few dollars a day. The profits go somewhere else, to those who run the illegal mines, and to those who turn a blind eye to it. Officially, the mines were closed after the Second World War due to the high percentage of uranium. During the 60s and 70s, there was no mining here. Today, it's different. There's a market again. People know that suicide bombers are interested in building a dirty bomb. And some states want to challenge the great powers and threaten them with an atomic bomb. Our officials make this possible because they get a large profit from the sale of uranium, and they're involved in illegally selling these minerals. Decades of illegal mining have contaminated the people and the environment. A gynecologist is treating women who live close to the mines. Especially illegal miners are exposed to high levels of radioactive radiation. We're surprised by the sharp increase in severe deformities that we're documenting here. In this case, the full anterior abdominal wall is missing. You see the liver and the intestines. This child has died of various serious malformations. Between January and September, we observed 6 similar cases. Normally, they're extremely rare. Dr. Makuya carefully photographs and documents the malformations, but no official agency seems to be interested in his findings. The lure of the profit that can be made from uranium is simply too big. We meet with somebody who is an expert at turning minerals into money. George Forrest's family has been mining in the Congo for over 90 years. He's become rich, but the country's become poor. The Congo was supposed to be the United States of Africa. You have to consider that in 1960, the gross national product of the Congo was the same as Canada's, higher than that of South Africa, and higher than that of South Korea. When you see where these 3 countries are today, and where the Congo is, then you understand everything. Environmentalists claim that Forrest and others have turned the pristine jungles of eastern Congo into a lunar landscape. But Western governments and seemingly respectable energy companies too hope to benefit from deals with Congo's corrupt politicians and dubious mining barons. In 2009, the French President Sarkozy tried to engineer a secret deal between Congo's President Kabila and the French nuclear energy company Areva. The aim? To secure mining rights in Katanga province for the French energy giant. The person arranging the deal was mining baron George Forrest. However, the secret deal became public and caused an outcry. The Congolese anti-nuclear activist who exposed it all was arrested, abused, and deported. We meet Golden Mizabiko in exile.
What made the government angry is the fact that I revealed the secret agreement that was signed between Congolese government and the French government with its international firm Areva. So the agreement was kept almost a secret. There was no debate, there was no tender procedure. And they wanted to keep that secret. And I said no, that had to be debated in the parliament, or the civil society had to be associated to the debate. And because of the interests, many people who were involved in this business.
Golden Mizabika was arrested because he had interfered with the interests of the nuclear industry. He was in detention for 7 months.
They would keep me in the condition that will lead to my death. They will keep me in prison without visit, without food, without water. And the people were expecting that they could come with a poison and make me, just kill me.
In the end, Golden was set free because of public pressure from human rights groups like Amnesty International.
Also thanks to Madam Hillary Clinton, because she came to Congo and she told Mr. Joseph Kabila to release me, that I was doing my job, which was protect the human right.
Together with Golden, we traveled to Niger, the poorest country in the world. Located in West Africa, 80% of Niger's area is taken up by the Sahara Desert. People here live in abject poverty, are badly educated, and have one of the lowest life expectancies in the world. Yet Niger is rich in natural resources. Areva, the state-controlled French energy company, has been extracting uranium here for 45 years. The people of Niger were promised prosperity when the uranium mines opened, but that was just a pipe dream.
Cette même compagnie qui a cette histoire au Niger vient
It's exactly the same company, Areva, that's now talking to the Congolese government about mining activities that has this long history here in Niger.
pour faire les mêmes activités, les mêmes opérations, les mêmes exploitations.
In the Congo, they want to do the same uranium mining as here in Niger.
Alors, il est essentiel pour un chercheur comme moi.
For a researcher like me, it's essential to come here and go to the source, to study the real situation
Du comportement réel
and the true face of Areva's business here in Niger.
Au Niger.
Areva's uranium mines are located in the northwest of the country, about 1,200 kilometers away from the capital, Niamey. The locals call this road to the mines the Uranium Highway. It's in appalling condition. Potholes, ruts, and pieces of dirt track are an endurance test for our vehicle. Frequently, we have to stop to change shredded tires. We can hardly believe that this is the route used by trucks full of radioactive uranium ore. Thousands of tons each month, because almost every 3 days there's a convoy which is transporting the minerals. Thousands of tons, billions of dollars. Just imagine, on such a road. Then we see the first uranium convoy. Heavily armed guards protect the trucks. The mining companies are worried because the uranium highway runs right through rebel territory. A branch of Al-Qaeda is operating in this area. We have to keep a safe distance from the convoy and pass it quickly. Transporting radioactive material is dangerous business in Niger, especially since early 2013, when war broke out in neighboring Mali. Then we run into trouble at a checkpoint. What are you thinking? I said stop. Do you have a problem with that? Are you crazy? The police are nervous. They ask for our permit from the governor and check our personal details. Then they double-check our passports and our visas. After passing several checkpoints, we're finally within reach of the mining town of Arlit. By now, pickup trucks with armed guards are escorting us. This is for our own protection, because occasionally, Al-Qaeda fighters kidnap foreigners to extort money from Western governments. For example, 7 Arriva employees were kidnapped back in 2010. 4 of them are still in captivity today. For years, Al-Qaeda has been training its sites on Arlit. The small town is like a treasure trove. It's 250 kilometers away from the next settlement, and it's full of uranium, which has a high black market value and is ideal for making dirty bombs. And now Arriva wants to open a new mine in the area. The Imuraren mine will be the world's largest open-cast uranium pit. The opening of the mine has been delayed by 3 years because of Al-Qaeda attacks. But after 2015, the mine will yield 5,000 tons of radioactive material a year. This will make Niger the second largest uranium-producing country in the world. Already, uranium is Niger's most important export by far. Most of the nuclear raw material mined here goes to France. When the first uranium mine was opened here in 1969, Arlit was dubbed the second Paris. But that was a long time ago. Since then, very little of the money Arriva has made with uranium mining has ever reached the local population. Instead, people here are left with environmental damage, radioactive contamination, and polluted groundwater. Al-Mustafa Al-Hakon used to work for Arriva, but now he's an environmental activist. What you can see with your naked eye in Arlit is the industrial waste of the mining operation. The waste left after the extraction of uranium still contains up to 80% of the radioactivity of the raw material. Today, we have about 45 million tons of residues from the mines at Sommer and Kominak. That means 45 million tons with 80% of the original radioactivity. And this is just lying around in the open air, in the desert here around Arlit. This is a disaster that you can see with your own eyes. Then there's another obvious problem here. They tap into the fossil groundwater reserves here. A fossil reserve which, as far as I understand, is renewed every 500 million years. And 70% of this fossil groundwater has already been used up. This is what Arriva's own analyses say. The people living in the area in and around Arlit are mostly Tuareg, nomads that graze their herds in the mining district. They are the ones most affected by the environmental damage. Because of the lack of groundwater, their pastures dry up. And because of the radioactive contamination, they face a higher mortality rate and more deformities among newborns. To gain greater influence over the mining operations and to get a greater share of the profits, the Tuaregs staged a rebellion in 2007. After 2 years, they signed a peace deal with the government of Niger. But now tensions have flared up again. To avoid another rebellion, the government has asked the Tuareg to come to Arlit for a peace summit. Security is high. Both the President and the Prime Minister will attend the event. And the Tuareg are unpredictable even at the best of times. But things are going smoothly. Maybe it's because President Mahamadou Issoufou is well known in Arlit. He used to work here as a director for a subsidiary of the French energy giant Areva.
C'est avec beaucoup d'émotion que je préside aujourd'hui.
I am very touched that I may speak at the opening of the Forum for Peace and Development in the Sahel-Sahara region today. Here in Arlit, a place where I spent 5 years of my life, from 1986 to 1991, as the director of uranium mining in the mining company Sommer.
Le poste de directeur d'exploitation de la société des mines de Naï et Somaï.
My fondest memory of that time, apart from the fact that I had the pleasure of getting to know the uranium market, is to be able to contribute to the development of this city. Unfortunately, rebellion, insecurity and violence, terrorism, which is expanding in the Sahara region, arms trading, drug smuggling, and human trafficking have brought our economic development to a halt here. To secure peace in Arlit, the Prime Minister himself presides over the summit. Briggy Rafini is the first Tuareg in the history of Niger to hold this post. But today he's facing heavy criticism from his fellow tribesmen. They're angry that the government is obviously lining its pockets by signing contracts with foreign energy companies, while the Tuareg are left with nothing. The main reason why the young Tuareg take up arms is the injustice by the government. They are nomads and they escape the dramatic poverty in the countryside to find work in the cities. Because they've lost their animals and have nothing to do. They take up arms in order to join gangs and be politically heard. We were actively involved in the search for peace. Unfortunately, the politicians don't listen because they want to use the insecurity in the region for other purposes. The profits from the uranium went to the powerful people. Why did they not invest in this region? They take everything here, but irradiate people, destroy the environment, and leave us with all this dirt lying around in the open air. Not on our watch. Our politicians have stolen from us. Our own people are guilty. We can't even accuse Areva. The problem is, Niger's politicians are thieves. They continue to take our resources. So our politicians steal from us, and the nuclear industry destroys us. To calm down the delegates, the Prime Minister later presents an economic forecast by the International Monetary Fund. According to the analysts, Niger will soon have the most dynamic economy in Africa. Despite being one of the poorest countries in the world right now, where millions of people are at risk of starvation. We want to know more about that. And we want answers to our questions about the nuclear plans of Niger's government and what role Areva will play in all this. Finally, together with Golden, we get to talk to the Prime Minister in private. Golden broaches the subject cautiously. We know that there has been intensive uranium mining since the 60s. Areva continues with the mining. How satisfied are you with the results? Areva is our privileged partner in the mining sector. But we're getting more confident because we increasingly master the technology ourselves. Now that you have this experience, is there a policy or a plan, an ambition to use the uranium for energy production? For us, this is the energy of the future, in the sense that we're working towards this aim. We say, why not? And we're working on a plan to build a nuclear power plant to produce energy not only for ourselves, but also for our neighbors in West Africa. But looking at the reality just outside the Prime Minister's tent, it's hard to see how Niger, with its weak government and its limited economic possibilities, can make use of its nuclear potential. To accept that our uranium will be used in African nuclear power plants, I would like to do that, if only we had the know-how. But unfortunately, we're dispossessed technologically. We don't have the technology, and we don't have the security.
Nous n'avons pas de technologie et nous n'avons pas une forte sécurité. Un terroriste peut...
A terrorist can fire a rocket into a reactor, and everything blows up. Everything explodes. The safety of a nuclear reactor cannot be guaranteed in this country. I don't let myself be misled. I do share the views of those who say, now listen, the Africans themselves should benefit from African raw materials. But even if I support that, in the case of nuclear power, I say Africa can survive without nuclear power. We have great rivers, the Congo, the Niger, and their power is enough to supply the whole of Africa with electricity. But nuclear power, that's a problem. The whole world will pay a high price for it, the highest. For over 50 years, African uranium has powered nuclear reactors in the West. Africa's abundant natural resources have helped create economic prosperity in Europe and America. However, the African people were never able to benefit from this wealth. Now it seems that for the first time, Africa might have the chance to use its natural resources for its own purposes. But unfortunately, nuclear power plants powered by African uranium are not the solution to the continent's energy crisis. The plans being drawn up right now only serve to line the pockets of corrupt politicians and their dubious business partners in the nuclear energy sector. For the time being, Africa needs to look for cheaper, more manageable, and less environmentally damaging solutions to its energy crisis.